Hey guys, just want to share this video about this Wazoo cachet belt that I've got by Wazoo Gear and made in the USA. It has a Velcro pouch from here to here that holds a lot of thin items, and in the buckle there's some items in here as well, which I'll go over, as well as a bottle cap lifter. Everything's got to have one of those, so it's got one. I've made this into a little survival / EDC kit. So I'm just going to start with what's in the buckle, and then we'll go around and show you what else is in there. So this buckle is kind of one of those adjustable ones. You just tighten it and lock it in place, and pretty much anywhere that you put it on, you can lock it down on. So if you have to tuck in a shirt or not tuck in a shirt, it kind of gives you the adjustability to put that where you want. So I like the buckle. It's nice. In the buckle, I've got $20 bill. I have a Fresnel lens. This is one of those magnifying lenses that you can use outside to start a fire. As a magnifying glass, I had to cut it down to size. This in here, I won't pull it out because it's kind of hard to get out and get back in. It is a little survival mirror and signal mirror. So you could use this if you needed to look at yourself and see, get a sliver out or get something out of your eye or something. You could also use it as a signal mirror, and it's got a little aiming hole in the middle as well. So this is kind of some cool things in the buckle there. Set those over here. Now for the Velcro part of the belt, well, actually I'll go from the outside. So these bicycle inner tube looking things are exactly that, bicycle inner tubes. They're called Ranger bands, and you can pull it off and cut it to size, whatever size you need. The thinner, obviously, the more stretchable, less stiff it's going to be, and basically cut to size rubber band. And the other thing that's nice is where normal latex or synthetic rubber band is susceptible to UV damage. So for outdoor uses, they can be not the best choice. This is the same rubber that tires and tubes are made out of. It's actually very UV resistant, and these hold up really well outside. They sometimes split along one of these seams where it was amalgamated together, but I haven't had too many issues unless I try to make one too thin. These are also flammable and can work as a flame extender if you have a lighter but you don't want to necessarily use up all the fuel in that. You could cut off a piece of this and use that kind of as a tinder to start a fire. So underneath this, I have some cordage. This is Technora cord, which sounds like Chuck Norris cord, which it basically is. It's the best cordage in the world. As far as I know that they've made, it's a little bit better than Kevlar, heat resistant up to 900 degrees. Pretty much hold it in a flame and it will degrade slowly, but it's not immediate. So it's fairly flame proof, extremely heat resistant. This is 600-pound test Technora cord, and that 600 pounds is in a very, very small diameter, which is really nice. It's also a 12-strand braid, so you can actually splice it together and do some cool no-knot rope systems where a knot actually weakens the strength of the rope. A splice can actually improve the strength of the rope. So I've got one big piece of Ranger band. I've got 4 feet of that Technora cord here, and then I've got more Ranger bands here. I've got some other already pre-cut sizes layered underneath. See if we can see this one. So there's some pre-cut sizes under there. Over here on the outside of my belt, just some unused space that doesn't have that Velcro pouch yet. I put some reusable Velcro cable ties, zip ties, and this is just a way to have a fastening capability on me at all times, but it's also not using up the valuable space inside the belt. So that's everything on the outside. What's in the buckle? Did mention bottle cap lifter. you know, because there's so many bottles you got to open when you're in the wilderness surviving. So glad they put one in there. Over here, I'm just going to start from this side, kind of pull out the little goodies I've got. So they have a little, just a little piece of paracord with a carabiner on it. I put this carabiner on. It's a locking S-biner. These are really nice. You pull it off and use it for something else. Or you could hang something off the side of your belt with that and have it attached so it wouldn't go anywhere. Inside, the first thing I've got is guitar pick. Guitar picks are made out of something called plectrum or celluloid, and it's extremely flammable. So you get a flame to that. It won't take a spark from a ferro rod, but if you do take a flame to it, it will go up very quickly. Not like a long flame, but it's a big flame. So that's there. This is a tinder that I've got, and it is a wax infused cotton plug, homemade, that I made from some dental gauze. I've got 2 of these actually in here. They burn for between 5 and 7 minutes, depending on how you fluff it up. I did wax and vegetable oil, so it's a little bit softer than just wax, longer burn time, and it's a little easier to fluff up. You can see it's a little bit soft and pliable. I didn't want wax or anything getting anywhere, so I kind of have a little bit of tape. I've got 2 of those. In here I have 4 more feet of that Technora cord, 600-pound test, and I'd really like to maybe move some things around in this kit and see if I can put more of this, because 4 feet here and 4 feet here, it's only 8 feet of this 600-pound test. I'd really like to get possibly up to 20 feet and some in a more continual length, but that's something I've got here. This is just a little bundle I've got. It's got 2 bobby pins. It has 2 paper clips, a safety pin there, and some little neodymium magnets, as well as just 1 hair tie. So another piece of elastic. I could possibly, with probably not very much luck, make lock picking tools out of the bobby pins and paper clips, and then for gear or clothing repair, use that safety pin. So this I have is something that my wife got me, a titanium toothpick. So I don't know how much I would use it actually as a toothpick. If I needed to, I could, but I could also just use it as a pick or as a bit of a sewing awl for leather or stiff materials to make a hole to get some other material through. So cool little titanium pick or toothpick. This is a little titanium pen. You can tell it's kind of gotten beat up in there a little bit. This is a bolt action pen. If that'll focus, you can see that bit just comes out there. Take off the end, and these refills, don't know if it'll accept just any old refill, and I guess that'll be something that I'll have the chance to find out when I go to use it and it doesn't work. But until then, I'll just keep it in here and see what else we've got. So this is one of those P38 can openers, and it's got some little hair ties around it. They've kind of stayed flexed, and when I pull them off, they stay stretched out and don't really work very well, but it does kind of protect the sharp parts from digging in to anything else in my belt, so I think I'll leave it on. But I've got a little nice purpose-built can opener. I have an earplug. I'll have another one in here. These are 2 compressed towels. They expand out maybe that big. Not big, really thin, more of a mesh material than anything. Technically reusable. If you didn't use them for anything, you know, extremely nasty, you could reuse them and get 3 or 4 uses out of each one. But they're there if I need something a pre-filter to go into a bottle, for example, before I actually filtered it or boiled it. See, here's the other earplug. I've pulled these out a couple times and they've been really squished like this, and given a few minutes they usually still, you know, expand fully, so they should still work as earplugs if I needed them. It's kind of nasty where they've been in, but you can also use them as a floater for fishing. Also in here I've got some flat things. So this is a piece of flex tape that I cut to size to put in here. This stuff is, I've had to repair a few hoses with flex tape, put it on even with some water pressure, and it has worked really well as a little bit of waterproof tape. This is a piece of, almost one entire piece of hot glue, a hot glue stick. I put it between two pieces of parchment paper and ironed it and made it nice and thin. And what this is nice for is, with a flame, you can actually take and melt a bit of it, put it on something, and glue something together if you had to. And this is a nice piece of safe glue that's not gonna get punctured or dry up, become unusable. This will always be usable if I have a flame. I did have some of that yellowish, clearish hot glue in here, but a piece of functionality that I wanted was to be able to use my Fresnel lens as a way to melt this glue if I didn't have a lighter on me. I'll usually have a lighter in my pocket or something, but if I don't, and this belt is all I have on me, then I want to be able to use this as hot melt glue with just this Fresnel lens. And being black, it absorbs the sun a lot better, and so I can actually melt it. Tried it a couple times, it works pretty well with the black hot glue, so those kind of work together. Moving on here, we've got, this is just another Ranger band. You can kind of see it's pretty stretchy. They work better if you pre-stretch. If you're going to put it over something big, pre-stretch it, warm that rubber up before you put it over, and it actually will increase the stretch a little bit. This is another one of these plugs. So here I could start, it takes about a third of these to start a fire with dry wood, but if you had wet wood and wet kindling and tinder, then it may take a whole one. So in wet weather, bad environment, I could start 2 fires, and if I was in good condition, I could start up to 6 fires possibly. Excuse me. So this here is some Kevlar cord, just natural yellow color Kevlar cord, and this is probably about 6 feet long, and I've got 2 big loops about this big in each end tied into it, and then wrapped up into a small hank. And what this can do is, this Kevlar cord, like the Technora cord, is really high temperature resistant, and you can actually use it to cut through wood, any plastics, PVC, zip ties. So if you were ever illegally detained, you could use this as a zip saw to get through handcuffs, or the like, duct tape if you're held by that. This is a sterile surgical blade. It's a pretty good size, number 24 scalpel blade, and that's just one cutting tool that I have. Obviously not ideal versus something like a folder or a fixed blade, but it's on your belt, and you can't say that about most knives you have with you. It's a decision to take with you. This is not a decision to take with me. This is just always with me, because I just, every pair of pants I wear, I put a belt on. So moving on here, as you can see, this is quite a bit already, and we're just getting about halfway through. So we'll pull this next item out. So some of these I've cut specifically to the exact size, so they're a pretty tight fit in here. This is Has a few things on it. This clear bit up here on top of the Gorilla Tape is some nano tape. It's double-sided nano tape. It's pretty thick. It has maybe 2 millimeters of thickness, and this is really good. It's extremely flexible, and you stretch it a lot, and it's technically a reusable tape. You can wash it, wash all of the dust and particles that makes it so it's not sticky, and it'll turn sticky again. And so that is kind of another reusable fastener. One of my main ways that I think about some type of survival scenario or get something fixed scenario is, what are the hardest things to engineer in the wild or without resources? I think the hardest thing is a knife. Just really hard to make a knife out of nothing. Cordage is really hard to make out of nothing, and cordage fits in with fastening. So fastening is really hard to do without man-made tools. So you have a knife. This kind of counts as that, something to fasten with. And the other thing that is really hard to manufacture yourself in some type of scenario where you don't have a lot of man-made materials is a container of some type. And I'll get to what I have for that in here. So in here I also have made a little sheath, if I can pull it out. And this in here is just a little metal hacksaw blade. And I've used one similar to this to go through wood, and you can do it. It's a little bit slow. Obviously you can't get through anything too big, but you can get through a few things with this. It's some metal. If you really had to go through, let's say, a chain link fence or a barbed wire fence that you couldn't get over, it would take you a little bit, but at least it would be quiet getting through it with this, or fairly quiet. So I've got that in there. And then back here, folded in on itself, is some water purification tablets. So these ones are for, I should probably label these better, but I think these are the 5-gallon ones. So if I come across 40 liters, so I think that's 5 gallons or 6 gallons, I think. So if I come across a 5-gallon bucket or other large container, I could filter 10 gallons right here. And if I open it up more, oh, it's in the top right here. So in here is all the others, and these are the 1-liter tablets that I have in here. So I could filter, I think, 6 liters right here, and then 10 to 12 more gallons right here. And that is just one thing that fits in the back of my belt, and it's one of the thicker things, but it works. So I think that's close to 14 gallons that I could do, and this is what I would be not filtering, but rather purifying it in. These are Whirlpack bags, and this is a tight fit. Let's be honest, this is probably a little much for the belt, but it stays closed, it stays together. I haven't really had a problem with it coming unvelcroed, but it is a little bit big in there. But what I like about this is it comes built in with a twist tie. So once you get it full of water, you can roll it down, fold this over, and tighten it up, and it's then keeps the water, and you can set it down on its side and the water doesn't come out. This is also, as you can see, it kind of says stand-up bag right there, and it'll actually stand up. It's a pretty small base once it's full of water, but if you have a nice flat level surface, it will stand up with that water. So with this and this, I could do up to 6 liters, and if I found any larger containers, then I could purify even more. So that is probably one of the nicest things about this kit, is that if you say that an adult human would need 2 liters a day to be comfortable, that'd give me 3 days of water. So that's a nice 72-hour time frame. Continuing on, we've got this stuff. It kind of looks nasty, and I might find a better way to put it in here but protect it better from the other stuff around it. These are hydrocolloid bandages. I've cut these to size so they fit in here, but what this is, they use it for acne, but it's just a good band-aid material. You can cut off if you just need a patch, and it's meant to go on and stay on for the majority of the healing time of the wound. Now, it may not actually stick on for that long, but I've used it a couple times. My wife has used it a couple times, and it does stay on fairly well, even working conditions. I actually put a piece of it, maybe about this size, on this when I got it, and it went straight through my fingers, through all the creases and folds of my skin right there, and stayed on for 9 or 10 hours at work with everything that I was doing, with and without gloves on, and it stayed on. I had a little bit of it stretched over my knuckle, so some of it was peeling up, but I think that's just because I put it on loose, and then when I tighten my fist, then it kind of would come off. But this is good stuff. It's also pre-medicated, so it has some anti-infection capabilities that are kind of built in there. I also have just a standard Band-Aid, sterile latex. I don't know if this is one of the fabric ones. Oh, and not made with natural rubber. So this is probably one of those nice fabric ones. Okay, got a little bit more here. We're getting to the good stuff now, the fun stuff. So I've got here, I have a little diamond sharpening stone. I've bought a few of these, and most of them are a pretty rough grit. This one I've had for a lot longer. I've had for probably 5 or 6 years, and it does not seem to be as rough of a diamond grit. So I think it'd do better to sharpen and hone knives, as the other one I think would leave a very toothy blade. So I've got that for sharpening a knife. And then this is one of those little carbide, like garden shear and lawnmower sharpening tools. And you can use it on a knife. It's very aggressive because it's one single carbide chunk on the end with like a perfect 90-degree on it. So it is very aggressive on metal. If you're using a soft metal, it will take curls off of it, and you can definitely get it like washboardy as it goes down the blade. And then you get a really toothy edge, and it's not a nice straight, perfect razor sharp edge. You can be really light with it, which I do most of the time. Just a little demo here. So if you run it down the blade like this, fairly perpendicular, that's where it will take a lot of material off at once. Perpendicular, right? Now if you run it on an angle, so you're only on a slight angle up from the blade, this is still significantly harder than any blade steel. And so you can kind of straighten an edge. If it's just a little bit wavy or bent or has a few little nooks in it, you can do this and use it lightly as a hone. And I've gotten some blades back up to a nice working blade from something that was really dull. And I've done this a few times with, D2, and which is kind of hard to sharpen, they say. I don't know, I'm not a great sharpener, but I get it working, and then I don't have to do too much more because I don't care if it's razor sharp. I care if I can cut when I'm trying to cut with it, and wood and stuff like that. So I got a little little sheath for it so it doesn't cut anything up, because like I said, this is very sharp. It will cut you. So those are 2 ways to sharpen a knife that's in my belt. And I kind of have a third way. So this here is a piece of Diablo Sandnet sandpaper. What I like about this is it advertises up to 10 times life. I don't know if that's true, but something I can tell you is you can definitely see through it. So the pores in this sandpaper are big enough that a lot of the dust you're sanding with, instead of going to clog the pores of the sandpaper like normal, it'll pass through. You can blow it out. You kind of whack it on something. You can even wash it and let it dry, blow it out, and you can get a lot more use out of this. I've got the grit side on some tape just to keep it from, maybe puncturing a hole in this bag, for example, and that seems to be working well. Again, stuff like this that's just thin, but could be useful if you needed, I think is a no-brainer, because it doesn't really add any weight. I can fit it in even if it feels full. I can still slide this in there and get it to work. Now, that could be on a flat surface. I could use that to sharpen a knife as well, or put an edge on something, but it's going to be a very rough edge. That's 220 grit. I feel like 220 is a pretty good middle ground between something that can do some stock removal, but can give a fine enough finish if needed. This is a little firecracker, just taped up so it doesn't get powder everywhere, but it's a firecracker, just kind of something I had, and I had a spot that I needed to fill and I didn't know what else to put in it. Eventually I'll be getting a straw with a needle, fish hook, and a couple sinkers, and I will be putting that where this is. So a little fish and sewing kit, but I haven't made that yet. So I just for fun, if you're working on these types of projects and you're not having fun, then what are you doing it for? And so I like to have fun, and so I just put that in there and kind of a gag. If I ever, it could be useful as a bit of a distraction or a signal. This is a ferro rod. I hate when a ferro rod and a striker are connected by a cord that's that long, because sometimes you just can't get the momentum. So I like a nice strong, this is that Kevlar again, so I could use this around something, cut through small pieces of wood. But this is a DeWalt bimetal hacksaw blade, and I found that these are really great for striking ferro rods. The back is a 90, and being bimetal, especially, the teeth are hardened, and when you get a really flat surface on a ferro rod, it can be hard to get a nice spark, because you're pushing on such a wide piece of metal. It's hard to get the pressure on that wide surface. So sometimes I'll flip it around and use this toothed edge to really throw some sparks. And the other thing I like about this is you can hold this kind of backwards in your hand and really get it with your thumb, and that gives you pretty much the entire distance of the ferro rod. And I made those the same size so they can fit in there. Right here I've got some steri strips, and these have been cut down, but I put them in here as a placeholder. I have some more ordered. They're on their way, so I can put some more full-size ones in. These are nice. You can clean and dry off a wound, and you can tape it to one side, close the wound, and then tape it over the other side. And you can use 2 or 3 of them on, let's say, something in your muscles, like an intramuscular wound or a gash, that can help hold it together if you can't get stitches, if you're not in a place where that's available, or at a point in time where suturing is and hospitals aren't available necessarily. So I've got one more thing really in here, two more things. One more thing that I've seen a lot of these Wazoo belts, watched anything I can find on YouTube about what other people have put in them. And one thing I think that this has a leg up is this next item. I've been able to fit it in here and haven't seen anybody else who has been able to fit a a mini fixed blade knife in their belt. Kind of gives a whole new meaning to belt knife. This is just a little M-Tech USA. Definitely not made in the USA, I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but under here I have some 60-pound strength Dyneema thread, but it could be used as fishing line or sewing thread. And then on the outside I have some 100-pound test Kevlar line, probably about maybe 10 feet of the 100-pound test Kevlar, 60-pound test Dyneema underneath, maybe 15 feet. And then this, like I said, this is a 150-pound test, this yellow one. So I have Technora, Kevlar, and Dyneema. So some of the strongest cordage that's pretty much available on the market, and I have it in a few different pieces in my kit. Now the sheath for this obviously was never going to fit in this belt, so I used some thermoplastic beads to make a sheath for it. You heat them up in hot water, maybe almost boiling water, and you're able to mold them into whatever shape you want. And I made this really slim sheath for this knife. Again, it's maybe a 2-inch blade, maybe. Probably a nice 3-finger grip. I might put some paracord on the back with a bead, maybe just to give it something more to grab onto. But if this is all that I had as far as a knife, and I wasn't carrying something like this knife, well, I would be really grateful for it. And even there's times when this has advantages over this, because this is a fixed blade. It has no moving parts, nothing to get gummed up in dirt, nothing to break or fail, and it's always on me. Like I said, this is a choice. I have to decide, I want to carry that today to work or outside or wherever I'm going. And if I forget it, then I don't have it. This is always in my belt. I'll always have it. And yeah, it's not the most useful of blade size and shapes, but it will do if in a pinch if I need it, and I'll be very grateful for it if I ever do need it. I have ground down the spine, put a 90-degree edge on that for the ferro rod, so I could strike that there as well. And what I like about this, which isn't available with most sheaths, is I could actually strike the ferro rod with a much better grip on this knife, because this sheath, I can hold it in my hand without it cutting me. Well, looks like my footage cut out. My phone stopped filming, so I'll just kind of talk about what I was talking about. I'm able to get a full-handed grip on this and strike the ferro rod, which would be even better than this. I get 2 or 3 fingers on it and might not be able to get a good spark, where this I might be able to. So I do like that. The sheath hasn't had a problem coming off, and it's thick enough and strong enough plastic. You can push on it and you don't feel the blade through it at all, and it's formed right to the shape of it, so that's kind of nice. One last thing I have in here is one of these little scraper razor blades with the cardboard little sheath on it to keep it from cutting anything. And then on here, wrapped around it, I probably have another maybe 10 to 15 feet of the Dyneema 60-pound test thread, which you could use for, again, for fishing, and it's the same thing that's under this Kevlar thread. So I have 3 bladed instruments, 3 blades in here, 3 cutting tools, which I think is, good. 2 is 1, 1 is none, but This one is sterile. You could use it for first aid if you had to, for some minor surgery, if you had to get into a wound and pull out gravel or something. I think would be something that I wouldn't want to use these two for if I didn't have to. This one, probably the least useful. I might take it out at some point. These two I think would cover most of what I needed, but that's in there for now. Yeah, so I've got, this is my kit. You can see that is, I think, more than even a little Altoids tin could probably fit, and it's on your belt at all times. If you wear a belt all the time like I do, it's not even, doesn't have to be a choice on whether to carry it or not. It's always just in your belt, and it's always on you. Again, like we talked about, there's this stuff on the outside and the signal mirror there, quite a bit. Well guys, I'm gonna start putting this back together and see if I can fit everything back in here, and hopefully I can. I haven't taken everything out like this before, so if you like this type of content, definitely let me know. If you want to see any specific videos about anything I have in here or have anything else explained, put that down in the comments as well. And I will be uploading kind of a part 2 about other stuff that I carry, kind of the rest of my EDC that I carry along with what's in this belt. So if you're interested in that, then you can go watch that video as well. If you have any comments and have any ideas on improvements for this kit, anything that can go in here that would be better than what I have, then leave that for me, and I'd like to see if I can implement it in the kit if I like the idea. So yeah, just put anything down there. If you think it's a terrible idea, a terrible kit, put that down there as well. And yeah, just let me know what you think, and let me know if you have anything similar in your kit. So yeah, enjoy.